Find one that you like, then select it with X to equip it to your imp. The bars and to other clips. This will help you line them up. Click R3 to bars and to other clips. The clip at the start of the timeline and stamp it with R2 or X. Clips on a timeline will snap to the bars and to other clips. This will help you line them up. Click R3 to listen to the timeline. In the next step, we'll build up the track with some more clips. Let's build on the melody by adding some chords. Go to the sound menu and select Search Music Clips again. Then select one. Go back to the sound menu. Click R3 to listen and notice how the clips play together in time. Click L3 to rewind. Now let's add some drums. Go back to the sound menu and select Search Music Clips. Find the drum clips in the drum clip you like, then stamp it onto the T so you can mix and match them. When you hover over a clip on the timeline, you'll see dotted lines light up at the start and at the end of the clip. Move closer to the timeline so you can see them properly. These are trim handles. We can use them to change the length of a clip. Hover over the handle on the end of the drum clip, then hold R2 to grab it. These clips are loops, so you can extend the clip beyond its original length. All the clips in the collection can be extended in this way. Trim handles are really useful for arranging and remixing. They let you use just a section of a clip without having to export for arranging. All the clips are loops, so you can extend the clips are loops. These are trim handles. We can use them to change the length of a clip. Hover over the handle on the end of the drum clip, then hold R2 to grab it. These clips are loops, so you can extend the clip beyond its original length. All the clips in the collection can be extended in this way. Trim handles are really useful for arranging and remixing. They let you use just a section of a clip without having to edit the music notes inside. On top of the trim handle, you'll see a little coloured gizmo. Move in closer to see it properly. This is a fade handle. You can use it to fade the volume of a clip in or out. It works just like the trim handle. Grab the gizmo with R2 and move your imp left or right to create a fade. Try adding a fade out on the chord clip so it drops off gradually. Drag it out further for a longer fade. Now click R3 to run time. Doesn't that sound cool? You may have noticed that the music stops as soon as the playhead reaches the end of the timeline. In the next step, I'll show you how to make your timeline loop. Now click L3 to rewind. To make the track play constantly in the scene, we need to set the timeline to loop. We can do this in the Timeline's Tweak menu. Hover over a blank area of the timeline, hold L1 and press square to open its Tweak menu. In here, we can change the timeline settings. Find the Playback Mode section. There are 3 options. Once means a timeline will play once all the way through when it's powered on. Sustain means a timeline will pause when it's powered off, then resume once it's powered on. Loop means a timeline will play repeatedly while it's powered on. Hover over the loop icon and press X to change the playback mode. You can also change the playback speed in the Tweak menu. Hover over the playback speed slider and hold X to grab it. Now move your imp to the left or right to adjust the value. Click R3 to hear your adjustments live. You can also adjust the slider by hovering over it and pressing the up or down directional buttons. How it sounds when it's slowed down or sped up a little. To close the tweak menu, hover over it, hold L1 and press circle. You can also tweak music clips to make them loop. Just hover over them, hold L1 and press square to open their tweak menus. You can also change their volume and tempo. Be careful changing the tempo, as your clips could go out of time with the others. We've made a cool piece of music, but you can carry on adding more clips if you want to. Maybe you heard something in a tutorial collection that would sound awesome in your arrangement. Try trimming and looping tracks. See what you can come up with. If you need extra space, you can extend the timeline by grabbing the edges with X. All the clips we've used in this tutorial come from the Media Molecule Music Collection. The collection contains lots of music clips you can use, as well as some complete tracks. Look for it in the Dreamiverse next time you're making music in sound mode. Once you've finished, switch over to play mode and listen to your track in the scene. To end the tutorial, just press Options and select the Exit Creation button.
Connie and Cuthbert are recording some new tracks for the Dreamiverse. Cuthbert's not exactly a virtuoso, but you don't need to be one to play music in dreams. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to use the performance tools and instruments in sound mode. Then you'll be ready to start making your own original tracks. In the scene, you'll find a timeline. Open it up with L1 and X. Click R3 to give it a listen. It's just a simple drum beat. A nice place to start jamming with other instruments. Click L3 to rewind time. To add another instrument, we need to go to Sound mode. Go to the Assembly menu and select Modes. Select Sound mode, the one with the speaker icon, with X. Once in sound mode, select the search button in the sound menu. It's the one with the magnifying glass icon. In sound mode, the search button has some extra options for searching specific types of sounds. Select the button for Search Instruments. You'll find tons of cool instruments in the Dreamiverse, but for this tutorial, I've made a collection to get started with. Open the collection with X. All of these sounds are instruments that you can play. Hover over any of them for a little preview of what they sound like. Unlike music clips, instruments don't have any music pre-recorded. So the previews you can hear are just to give you an idea of how the instrument sounds. The notes it plays will be down to you. Let's start off by laying down a bass line. Pick any instrument you like from the selection of basses. I'm going for FM classic bass, but creating music is all about personal taste. Once you have an instrument on your imp, hover over the timeline and it'll snap to the canvas. Stamp it onto a new row under Jazz Brush Kit and line it up to the start of the timeline. When you're ready to start jamming with your new instrument, move on to the next step. We now have two instruments on the timeline, but they look a little different. That's because Jazz Brush Kit has music recorded and the FM Classic bass doesn't. To start playing, we need to open the instrument. You can do this by selecting the instrument with X, then the Open Sound button in the context menu. But a quicker way to open it is to use the shortcut L1 and X. Just like we do when opening a microchip or timeline, or scoping into a group. Any sound can be opened this way, even sound effects. This colourful canvas is the sound's freeform view. The imp has undergone a bit of a transformation too. That's because we're performing. If you move your imp off the canvas, the buttons do their normal functions. But when you're hovering over the canvas, your controller buttons can play different notes using the instrument sound. Under your imp, you can see which notes are played by each button. The notes on the right are played by the action buttons. And the ones on the left are played by the directional buttons. These colourful spots on the canvas aren't just for decoration, they are effect fields. See what happens when you play notes while hovering over one of these spots. Effect fields can drastically change the sound of the instrument. With most effect fields, the effect is strongest in the middle and fades off to the edges. Different instruments have different effect fields. You can even edit and customize the fields to create your own version of the instrument. Let's not get too carried away with the possibilities just yet, though. First, get comfortable playing notes on the canvas. Try out all the effect fields and see if you can play a simple tune. Nothing is being recorded yet, so you're free to go wild. In the next step, we'll explore other ways of using freeform view. Now you've got a feel for performing in freeform view, let's look at some other features of it. In the context menu, find the button called Stop Performing. If you select this, your imp and controls will return to their normal functions, and you won't be able to play notes on the canvas. You can also stop performing by holding L1 and pressing circle when hovering over the canvas. The effect fields are now shown as gadgets. You can grab them with R2 to move them around, or tweak them with L1 and square. To go back to performing with the imp, Just select the Start Performing button in the context menu. Or use L1 and X on the canvas. Try pressing the buttons in this order: X, square, triangle, circle, down, left, up, right. This progression of notes is called a scale. To be specific, this is the C minor pentatonic scale. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? You can change the scale by holding down R1 over the canvas. With R1 held, use the left stick to select a different key. The right stick is used to choose different scales in that key. Release R1 once you've made your choice, and the instrument will now play to the scale you chose. Different scales have different feels, so you can make your music sound happy or sad, bluesy or folksy, or just plain old avant-garde. You can play in whatever scale and key you want to, but it's usually a good idea to stick to that choice for the entire song. Explore the different keys and scales. You don't need to be a music theory expert to understand them. Just use your ear and listen to how they sound. But if you want to follow along exactly with this tutorial, then stick to C minor pentatonic. Hold R1 and use the left stick to select C. Then use the right stick to select the additional category, then the minor pentatonic scale. Now we know how to perform using Freeform View, I think we should try recording something. Move on to the next step when you're ready. OK, now you've had some time to practice, let's try recording something. For your first try, we'll keep things simple, so try playing this sequence. X, 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 square, square, triangle, triangle. To help us play in time, we can use the metronome. If you look to the top left corner of the canvas, you'll find a couple of buttons. The first one is the metronome. Select it with X to turn it on. This will add a useful click track, which can help you play in time when recording. Next to the metronome is the Count In button. When this option is turned on, you'll have a 4-beat count-in before recording starts, so you have a moment to prepare. In the context menu, you'll find a button with a record icon. Select this button when you want to start recording. After the count-in, the timeline will start playing and the canvas will record your performance. When you're ready, give it a go. When the playhead reaches the end of the timeline, it'll stop. You'll still be able to play notes on the canvas, but none of them will be recorded. When you've finished performing, select the Stop Recording button in the context menu. Play back your recording with R3. See how the notes appear on the canvas as colourful strokes. If you view the canvas from the side, you can see your performance in .3D. As this was your first try, you might have made a few mistakes, but don't worry about it. In the next step, we'll be having another go. So rewind with L3 and move on when you're ready. A lot of performing music comes down to practice and repetition. So let's try recording that bass line again. But the canvas now has your first performance recorded to it. If you click R3, you can see the notes you played appear as colourful strokes on the canvas. Before we try again, we need to clear the first performance. If it was the last thing you did, you could just hover away from the canvas and press the left button to undo. But if it wasn't, you need to select the Delete All button in the top left of the canvas. It's red with a cross on it. This will delete all the notes recorded with the instrument. So let's have another try. Make sure you have the metronome and count-in selected, and that you've rewound time. If you're feeling confident, try elaborating on the bass line or using some effect fields. When you're ready, start recording. But instead of using the button in the context menu, try this shortcut. Click the L3 and R3 buttons together at the same time to start recording. To stop recording, just click L3 and R3 together again. Now play back your recording and see how it sounds. If you want another go, just select the Delete All button again and give it another whirl. Click L3 and R3 together to start and stop recording. Once you've recorded a bass you're happy with, rewind time and move on to the next step. We've got a drum and a bass track, so let's add something more melodic. Close the canvas by selecting the cross icon in the top right corner. In the Sound menu, open Search Instruments again and select a melody instrument you like. I'm using muted synth strings, but feel free to choose one you like. Stamp the instrument on a new row of the timeline, then open it up with L1 and X. Play some notes on the canvas. Try out the effect fields. See if you like the instrument. The longer you hold the buttons down, the longer the notes will be. Try moving your imp in and out of effect fields while holding notes. Melodies can be very simple and still be very expressive. If you need some inspiration, try playing this. X, square, triangle, circle, X. I really like this effect field in the top right. It gives it a brighter sound. Click R3 to play along to the music you've already recorded. When you're ready to record, select the metronome and count-in buttons on the canvas. Rewind time with L3, then click L3 and R3 together to start recording. Click L3 and R3 together again to stop recording. Play it back with R3. I think Cuthbert will love it. Have another go if you want to. Just delete all the notes using the red cross button in the top left of the canvas. hopefully you're starting to get the hang of playing music with your controller. But performing in freeform view isn't the only way to record music. In the next step, I'll show you how you can edit instruments directly using the piano roll. Performing music is a great way to have fun and jam with musical ideas. But it's not the only way to make music in Dreams. Let's try editing one of the tracks we've recorded. If you don't already have it open, use L1 and X to open your melody recording. To the right of the name, you'll see a few buttons. The selected button, with the imp on it, is the one for freeform view. Next to it is a button with some music notes on it. Select it with X to switch over to piano roll view. You can quickly switch between freeform and piano roll using a shortcut. Just hover anywhere over the canvas, hold L1 and press the touchpad button. Piano roll view is like a timeline, but it shows you all the individual piano roll view. You can quickly switch between freeform and piano roll using a shortcut. Just hover anywhere over the canvas, hold L1 and press the touchpad button. Piano roll view is like a timeline, but it shows you all the individual musical notes recorded in the instrument. Each row is a different note, and the higher rows are a higher pitch. On the left edge of the piano roll, there's a keyboard. Press X on the keys to hear the note for each row. Click R3 to listen to the music in this view, and click L3 once done. In piano roll view, you can use the Move tool in all the normal ways. You can grab and move any of the notes using R2. Select them with X, delete them with triangle, and undo and redo with the left and right buttons. Looks like I didn't quite hit the start of the bar with this note, but I can easily fix that by grabbing the note with R2. Notes can also be extended. Find a note that you'd like to change the length of. Looks like I played this one a little short. Move in closer to the note and hover over it with your imp. You'll see a trim handle appear on the end. Grab it with R2 and use your imp to drag the note out longer or shorter. Move on to the next step when you're ready. Music is all about repetitions and patterns, and cloning notes on the piano roll is a great way of creating these. You can clone individual notes by holding L1 when you grab them. But by selecting notes, you can clone the whole melody. Hover your imp over any note, then double-press X, and all the notes will be selected. You can also use this shortcut for selecting all items, but by selecting notes, you can clone the whole melody. Hover your imp over any note, then double-press X, and all the notes will be selected. You can also use this shortcut for selecting all items on a timeline or all the objects within a scope. Look over your performance in piano roll view and see where you can improve it. Use the beat and bar lines to arrange the notes so that they're in time. When you have notes selected on the piano roll, the Snap Notes button appears in the context menu. This button snaps all the selected notes to the nearest grid line. This is really useful for tightening up a performance. You don't have to make it perfect, though. Sometimes it's the little nuances and inconsistencies that give a piece of music its character. When you've finished editing the notes, move on to the next step, where I'll show you some more ways to use the piano roll. We've seen how the piano roll can be useful for editing a performance, but you can also compose directly onto it. If you don't still have your melody open it up again with L1 and X. You can switch between freeform and piano roll view with L1 and the touchpad button. Now go to the Sound menu and select Tools. Here you'll find some of the tools you're used to using, like Move, Clone, and Delete. The button with the pencil icon is Draw Notes. Select it with X. With the Draw Notes tool, you can use R2 to place notes directly onto the piano roll. Add some extra notes to the melody using Draw Notes. Hold R2 to draw longer notes. If you hold L1 and then press and hold R2 while using Draw Notes, you can even draw notes freehand. When you're done drawing notes, play it back with... If you hold L1 and then press and hold R2 while using Draw Notes, you can even draw notes freehand. If you hold L1 and then press and hold R2 while using Draw Notes, you can even draw notes freehand. When you're done drawing notes, play it back with R3. The new notes I added in the piano roll sound different from the ones played in freeform view. That's because the notes drawn on the piano roll are not in an effect field. But there is a way to move notes into or out of an effect field. I'll show you how to do that in the final step. To move notes into effect fields, we need to go back to freeform view. Hold L1 and press the touchpad button to quickly switch views. Whenever you enter freeform view, your imp will always start performing. We don't need that right now, though, so select Stop Performing in the context menu or hold L1 and press Circle over the canvas. Your imp will now be equipped with the Move tool. We can see how most of the notes were played in this effect field. But the ones added with the Draw Notes tool are in the centre of the canvas, away from the effect fields. If you can't see them, you might need to rewind time with L3. Rewinding time will condense all the notes on the freeform canvas, so you can see them all. To put the notes into the effect field, just grab them with R2. You can also select the notes with X. If you select notes, then switch views with L1 and the touchpad button, those notes will also be selected in Piano Roll view. Piano Roll and Freeform view are powerful tools on their own, but using them together, they're even more powerful. Practice using them to finish off the piece. There are plenty of instruments in the collection to try out. You can also find the finished song from this tutorial in the tutorial collection. When you're finished composing, head into play mode to listen to your composition in full. Then, when you're ready to finish the tutorial, just go to the Options menu and select the Exit Creation button.